CPU works. First of all, what is a CPU? A CPU is a central processing unit, which is a part of the hardware that is in charge and directs the computer system to execute stored program instructions. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. It translates our inputs to outputs. So if you were to launch a program, it is actually functioning as ones and zeros. These binary digits are sent via data bus. Then a CPU translates these data to the control unit. The control unit acts as a decoder. The control unit, or CU, communicates with other parts of the hardware like ALU, multiplexer, program counter, instruction register, and accumulator. After going to the control unit, it will go to the decoder. Then after the decoder, it will go to the arithmetic logic unit. The arithmetic logic unit, or ALU, performs arithmetic instructions and operations and logical operators, which consists of addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc. After going to the ALU, it will go to the registers. And the registers could depend on the data register or the instruction register. An instruction register holds instruction currently being executed, while the data register holds data waiting to be processed. After going to the registers, it will go to the storage. And there are three types of storage: memory storage, secondary storage, and registers. The secondary storage is when the data will be eventually used in the long term, while in the memory storage, the data will be used in the near future temporarily. When the data is in the memory storage, it acts faster because it can be easily accessed. While in the register, the data can immediately be operational and be executed. It's made up of RAM and ROM. RAM is called random access memory, and ROM is read-only memory. RAM requires current to retain values, it is volatile, and the instructions and data can be read and modified. Then users usually refer to this type of memory. While in the ROM, it is not volatile, which means that the data instruction can be read but they cannot be modified. They are typically recorded at the factory. And after the data goes to the RAM, it will produce an output. And these outputs are made up of kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, and terabytes, depending on the size. The lowest storage measurement is kilobytes, while one of the biggest ones is terabytes. Kilobytes made up of 1,000 bytes, megabytes at 1,000,000 bytes, gigabytes 1,000,000,000 bytes, and terabytes 1,000,000,000,000 bytes. Like, for example, a kilobyte is made up of letters and words, and megabyte is composed of many words, while gigabyte could be like a video, pictures, like that. Finally, after going to the ROM, it will go to the accumulator and back to the program counter. It will go to the RAM again and repeat the same process: instruction register, decoder, arithmetic logic unit. Then this is an example of a fetch and execute program, because the input goes in here, then it was going to go out here. Then the CPU converts these bits into bytes. Then it will convert the bytes to words and letters. And then
do you remember when you first realized that your computer was more than just a monitor and keyboard? That between the mouse click and the video playing, there was something that captured your attention, understood it, and made it real? What is that something? Is it gremlins? Let's imagine that we can shrink down to the size of an electron and inject ourselves into a click of a mouse. If you took your mouse apart, you'd see that it's really a very simple machine. It has a couple buttons and a system for detecting motion and distance. You might have an optical mouse that makes these measurements with lights and sensors, but older ones did this with a hard rubber ball and some plastic wheels. Same concept. When you click the button on your mouse, it sends a message to the computer with information about its position. When your mouse click is received, it's handled by the basic input-output subsystem. This subsystem acts like the eyes and ears, and mouth and hands of the computer. Basically, it provides a way for the computer to interact with its environment. But it also acts like a buffer to keep the CPU from being overwhelmed by distractions. In this case, the I/O subsystem decides that your mouse click is pretty important, so it generates an interrupt to the CPU. Hey CPU, got a click here. The CPU, or Central Processing Unit, is the brains of the whole computer. Just like your brain doesn't take up your whole body, the CPU doesn't take up the whole computer, but it runs the show all the same. And the CPU's job, its whole job, is fetching instructions from memory and executing them. So while you're typing, maybe really fast, like 60 words a minute, the CPU is fetching and executing billions of instructions a second. Yes, billions, every second. Instructions to move your mouse around on the screen, to run that clock widget on your desktop, play your internet radio, manage the files you're editing on the hard drive, and much, much more. Your computer's CPU is one heck of a multitasker. But oh my gosh, there's a very important mouse click coming through now. Let's drop everything now and deal with that. There are programs for everything that the CPU does. A special program for the mouse, for the clock widget, for the internet radio, and for dealing with letters sent by the keyboard. Each program was initially written by a human in a human-readable programming language like Java, C++, or Python. But human programs take up a lot of space and contain a lot of unnecessary information to a computer, so they're compiled and made smaller and stored in bits of ones and zeros in memory. The CPU realizes that it needs instructions for how to deal with this mouse click, so it looks up the address for the mouse program and sends a request to the memory subsystem for instructions stored there. Each instruction in the mouse device driver is duly fetched and executed. And that's not nearly the end of the story. Because the CPU learns that the mouse was clicked when the cursor was over a picture of a button on the monitor screen, and so the CPU asks memory for the monitor program to find out what that button is. And then the CPU has to ask memory for the program for the button, which means that the CPU needs the monitor program again to show the video associated with the button, and so it goes. And let's just say that there are a lot of programs involved before you even see the button on the screen light up when you clicked it. So just the simple task of clicking your mouse means visiting all of the critical components of your computer's architecture. Peripherals, the basic input-output system, the CPU, programs, and memory, and not one gremlin.